What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Tonight, we're going to get into these drones that are flying around everywhere, and we're going to look at HARP and Project Bluebeam a little bit and see if any of them are connected. So, give me 1 second here. I'm about to come unlock it. I forgot you were coming back.
Shockingly said this week, we haven't seen anything unusual. We know of no threat, close quote. What? The massive invasion of drones observed and recorded by so many of our citizens, including and especially law enforcement and military personnel, many who are here. Is it unusual? Is he kidding? How does Secretary Mayorkas, who infamously told us for years that our southern border was secure and closed when we know it's not, and now insult our intelligence that we haven't seen anything unusual? This is usual? I don't think so. And how can he and others, like National Security Spokesman Admiral John Kirby, say we know there's no threat? How do they know that?
Sorry, guys.
What are they revealing? Or are they just saying it? How can anyone speculate or issue assurances to thousands, millions of Americans who have witnessed, thousands who have witnessed the drones, that there is no threat? For weeks, we've asked for the truth and action to mitigate any and all threats to people and property. Now, we are demanding it. As the sightings increase, including by service members at Naval Weapons Station Earl, and I did talk to the commander there, his men are seeing it right there at the base. Are you kidding me? A munitions depot of that caliber, and these drones are hovering in close proximity to it. The Coast Guard told me the other day, and Sheriff Mastronardi, that one of its 47-foot rescue boats was followed.
We're checking out all these drones flying around, and then we're going to look into HARP and something called Project Bluebeam. We're going to see if we could maybe make some sense of them.
In very close proximity off its stern by numerous drones. Why can't we bag at least one of these drones and get to the bottom of it? Why can't we even track them? I asked Secretary Mayorkas at a briefing, a Zoom briefing, why we can't follow them, find out where they're going. They're coming from.
Could they possibly be holograms?
Somewhere. Okay, you can't seem to do that. Why can't we follow them and find what their origin is? Many of them seem to be coming from the ocean. One, I was with Sheriff Mastronardi the other day on the beach, and we saw a video, and we talked to heard her, one of his deputies talk about how she had seen 50 of them coming from the ocean to mainland. Is there something out there? We don't have the capability to do that. We don't have control over our airspace. And just remember, ladies and gentlemen, the feckless response to the Chinese Communist Party's spy balloon. When that thing traversed America and went over one very sensitive base, including the B-2 bombers base, after another. We did nothing except say, oh, it's a spy balloon. Or is it? Or is it a weather balloon? I still can't get over that one. The elusive maneuvering of these drones, I would suggest a major military power sophistication that begs the question whether they have been deployed to test our defense capabilities, or worse, by violent dictatorships, perhaps maybe Russia or China or Iran or North Korea. I mean, they have the capability.
Yeah, I heard him saying that Iran launched a mothership off the East Coast. I highly doubt that, and I would highly doubt it would be North Korea. You could pretty much rule North Korea out. They don't have the money to build something that crazy. I don't think. I mean, Iran would maybe have the money because all the money we gave to them, but I wouldn't see Iran doing that either. I would, if it was anybody, I would say China for sure.
Ability, and they certainly have the motive. The Pentagon has said the drones are not ours. I've written Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin asking the Pentagon to authorize the use of force to down one or more of these unmanned threats to uncover the mystery. Bring them down over the ocean, over an area where there's no population. Bring them down and find out who's doing it. Knowing that drone warfare has radically changed warfighting in Ukraine and Russia, the Middle East, and elsewhere, this is not the time to trivialize or dismiss the threat. I want to express the profound thanks that I and my colleagues have to both Ocean County Sheriff Mike Mastronardi and Monmouth County Sheriff Sean Golden for doing all within their power and authority to aggressively investigate and track drone appearances. They are doing an amazing job. As many of you know, state and local law enforcement is precluded by law from taking more decisive action, which is why DOD must. They are the ones who have the ability and the authority to act. Congress, yes, and the president, yes, need to move quickly to expand state and local authorities, powers. But DOD has it right now. Sheriff Golden wrote me a few days ago requesting legislation to empower the state police to seriously protect at-risk persons and infrastructure.
I don't know. That just seems crazy to me that they would have no clue what they are or if they're man-made, whose they are. That just seems highly unlikely to me. I don't know. That's just weird.
And if necessary, bring down a dangerous drone or drones. I am now drafting that bill and will soon introduce it. I want to thank him for that idea. I'd like to now yield the floor to Sheriff Mastronardi and then to Sean Goldman. Sheriff.
Thank you, Congressman. I just want to clarify a couple of things that have happened. We have a
What's up, whoever tuned in? I'm checking out this drone situation going on, and then we're going to look at HARP and a little bit of Project Bluebeam, see if maybe we could tie it into some things.
very robust drone program in Ocean County. We've had it for 8 years or more. We're very fortunate. It's headed by.
What's up, Stephen, buddy? Stephen says, are you a conspiracy theorist? I mean, to some point. I mean, I think there's, in some of them, I think there's some truth for sure, and some of the conspiracies. I mean, I look at it like people get arrested on conspiracy charges all the time. So, I mean, there's definitely some ones out there that are stupid, but I like to look at them. They're fun to look at anyway. But I think the stuff like 9/11 and that, I definitely buy into all those for sure. But some of them are just super, super outlandish. We're just trying to figure out what these drones are here. I don't know if you know what HARP is, but we're about to look at HARP here in a minute. I'm wondering if all these are holograms myself from HARP and Project Bluebeam. Because my other series, the Maitreya and the Occult series, the Occult has been talking about it for a long time, about basically a staged alien event that would happen in the future. So I've always thought maybe HARP could use like some hologram technology or something.
By Sergeant Fennessy. When we started to get these reports at the 911 center from local PDs, we went out and we decided to do a drone patrol, more or less. And we took our tethered drone, which you see over here, that the officers are demonstrating, and we put it up in the air on Saturday night.
See, that's what I don't get, Stefan, how they have no clue if these are man-made or where they're from or who they're from. That doesn't make sense to me, that they wouldn't have a clue basically where they're from.
A week ago. At that time.
And then they won't let them shoot them down. That's so weird. Why would you not want to shoot them down and figure out if they're man-made or where they're from or who's sending them or what their capabilities are better than that? That's crazy.
Sergeant Fennessy, who's an experienced drone operator and pilot, and Officer D'Amico spotted one of the items that brought us concern.
Yeah, Stefan said, I know about HARP. Some Kiwis blame HARP for our earthquake in 2012. Yeah, that's one of the conspiracy theories around HARP, is that it can cause, like, change the weather and cause earthquakes. There was a lot of people who said Hurricane Katrina was HARP too. But if you look at the like the Project Bluebeam wiki, basically one of the theories is that they'll use that to cause earthquakes to basically undig old like spaceships and stuff like that, where they could be like, oh, the earthquake unburied the spaceship, we got everything wrong type stuff. So yeah, I've seen that a lot.
They videotaped it as far as they were. They got some tape on it. They described it as going around their drone.
But when I sit back and think, there's shows like Blind Frog Ranch and all right, Stefan. There are shows like Blind Frog Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch. And on the show, the premise is they found something huge under like the mesas there. And they're kind of hitting towards its metal and maybe a spaceship. So who knows? There could be some truth to all this.
And traveling off at
But yeah, Stefan, I'll see you when I see you, buddy.
a high rate of speed. They reported to us that it was, they felt it was 60 miles an hour
Oh no,
or
you're
more.
not leaving.
And it put it in perspective, our drone's only
I always misread stuff. On my way home, just stopped to get new wheels for my daughter's skateboard. Oh, nice.
go about 40 miles an hour. So that's number one. Sunday night, we were out again. This time was Sergeant Fennessy once again. And at that point, we got notified by our 911 center there was concern of a sighting in Island Beach State Park. We responded. We met a officer, a certified New Jersey officer, not from our department, from another agency. And that officer.
Also, what's interesting to me, I've had 2 interviews now with this man named Gary from Search for Signs. And he's basically been a follower of this man named Maitreya for years, pretty much almost half his life. But I've heard him say many times they attribute like lights in the sky and stuff like that to Maitreya. So that's kind of interesting to me. They said the Norway spiral back in '09 he caused it, and they link him to spaceships and stuff too, and aliens. So that's kind of crazy to me.
She did an excellent job. She documented. That's where you're getting the reports of 50 drones coming off the ocean. That's what she reported seeing. She was on duty at the time, and she reports that she saw 50 drones coming from the ocean to the mainland, transversing the airways over Island Beach State Park, going down towards Barnegat Light, and coming to the seaside area.
Yeah, I don't think aliens are aliens. I think if aliens were real, more than likely they're just fallen angels. Because I believe in the firmament above us. I don't think anything can get in or out myself. So yeah, I see what you're saying there.
As a result of that, we continue to operate. We've obviously notified all of our partners, FBI, state police, Coast Guard.
But yeah, I agree with that. The ships probably are, if they're really ships, they probably are man-made. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was basically technology given to them from like fallen angels or something like that. Some kind of technology that they told them about.
Coast Guard cutter put out a boat.
We've seen that throughout throughout history, where they say Eisenhower met with an alien in the White House, and they say a few world leaders have met with aliens. So, I mean, who knows what the truth is?
At a Barnegat Light, they reported to us what the congressman referred to the comments. I have not spoke to the people on that boat directly. So what are we doing? We're taking proactive, working with Sheriff Golden, our partner, also Sheriff Nolan, Cape May County, and Sheriff Don.
Yeah, in fact, I saw a whistleblower come out, and he said that Lockheed Martin and the other big arms dealer, he knows for 100% fact, they've made their own spaceship. I think it was Boeing Martin, maybe, but he said Lockheed makes the triangle ones, and I think he said Boeing Martin makes the round disc ones. But he said he knows for a fact. It was on the it's a pretty good channel. It's called the Sean Ryan Show. It's on YouTube here. He has a bunch of whistleblowers go on there. But that was pretty interesting when he said that. It wouldn't surprise me at all, though, if the top military, like the top weapon producers in the world, were also making ships like that, basically.
Donahue from Atlantic County We're taking some, trying to document what's happening, if there's anything happening off the coast of New Jersey. But, you know.
Yeah, for real, Stefan. I'm in California. We, I mean, we could tell a huge difference out here from it, a massive difference.
Obviously, there's a lot of attention to this matter throughout. Social media is a little bit different than it used to be in Atlantic County.
All right.
That
and deep drone equipment.
Say they have no clue what it is, which I don't believe. I'm pretty sure they know what it is. So let's get on to the next video. So I'm going to show a little video on HARP for anybody who doesn't know what HARP is.
You heat up the ionosphere for a few minutes and then you shut it off and you watch the ionosphere repair itself.
Basically a large array of antennas in Alaska.
It does that in a few seconds, and you do a lot of experiments that way, things you can't do in the laboratory.
First time I visited HARP, I didn't even know what it was. I went to HARP as part of a physics club, the Society of Physics Students. I was a student here at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and HARP at the time held an annual open house event where the public could tour the facility and talk to the scientists.
HARP is a facility to study the ionosphere region 60 miles out into space. And that's a region where there's not much density. The air is very thin, mostly plasma, which means electrons and ions.
When I saw
So being plasma, basically the whole sky could be used as a giant TV, basically a plasma TV to project images and stuff up to, which is, that's just insane.
this facility and saw how unique and interesting it was.
I've also seen other theories that say basically HARP would be what introduces the Antichrist, and that's how they would be able to basically project his words into people's heads through super low frequencies, which is an interesting idea. And then they say he would basically get projected in the sky through HARP and stuff. I mean, it's a fascinating theory. I mean, who knows? If they can do stuff like that, that's crazy. Because I've always wondered, how would the Antichrist talk to everybody at the same time? Obviously, television would be your first guess, but what about people who live out in the wilderness and like the Amazon that don't have televisions? How are they going to see and hear him? I think something like this would be like a really good choice.
It was. So when I decided to do my PhD thesis research using the HARP facility itself. HARP stands for the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
The federal government spent about $300 million. It's the most exquisite of its kind in the world. It's currently owned and operated by the Air Force Research Lab.
And by the way, there's other countries who now have their own HARP. I know China has one for sure. And I want to say Russia now has one, just like China built their own CERN too, which is crazy. Hopefully other countries don't just start building stuff like CERN that could just do so much damage if something went wrong. CERN's another crazy thing they're working on. I've seen a scientist do an interview and they asked him what was CERN's purpose. And he basically said, we're a key to a doorway. Just how he said it, I don't know, it always stuck with me. And then they have a giant 3-foot bronze key hanging above like their control room. That's a weird place there, CERN.
And they have other priorities. They've done some tests over the years. Now they want to go do other things. So it's become a bit of an orphan sitting down there in Kokona. The U.S. has the lead in the world in this area. It would be a shame to give that up. The other facilities aren't nearly as flexible or as powerful. And HARP can do science that the other two can't. There's a chart that shows and compares all the heaters, including air receiver. You can see that it's quite a bit more powerful and more flexible.
It's an instrument that allows us to make small changes to the ionosphere, and then we can measure the response of the ionosphere in the upper atmosphere to the changes that HARP is making. Scientists have categorized the various layers of the atmosphere. Most of the weather that we experience occurs in the troposphere. When we fly in commercial aircraft, we're generally flying at the top of the troposphere. Above that is the stratosphere, and above that is the mesosphere, and above that is the thermosphere. And the ionosphere is basically part of the thermosphere, which extends from about 80 to 100 kilometers altitude all the way up to about 1,000 kilometers altitude. And so the ionosphere is generally what we refer to as the partially ionized portion of the thermosphere. It's too high for weather balloons and it's too low for many satellites. And sure, we can launch rockets through the ionosphere too, as we do at Poker Flat, but those are very fast but expensive experiments. The reason why we care about the ionosphere, particularly for radio communication, is that radio waves, when traveling through free space, behave differently when they travel through a region of charged particles or plasma. The ionosphere is basically a partially ionized plasma.
Denser.
And so one of the things that can happen to radio waves that travel through a plasma is that they can be bent, their polarization can change, they can be absorbed. And since so much of our lives is really dependent on radio communication, either communicating to satellites or for navigation with GPS, which is also communicating with satellites essentially, or over-the-horizon communication or over-the-horizon radar, it's really important for us to understand how radio waves are affected by the ionosphere, and in some cases, how radio waves affect the ionosphere in the case of HAARP or other powerful radio transmitters.
A lot of us realize how important it is, how powerful, how significant the facility is. So we're trying to figure out.
That's crazy. So it's just like how frequencies, they say different frequencies can be harmful to the body and basically do different things to our bodies. It's all just, it's just energy. It's crazy. When you think about how complex all that really is, just how powerful God is, it blows my mind. It's so intricate and detailed. It's insane.
Figure out ways to keep it alive as an active scientific tool.
Why would it be beneficial? I can't speak for the applications, but it's a mystery to solve. You can think of the ionosphere as a natural plasma laboratory. The conditions of...
Why? That's weird. Why can't he speak about the applications of it? That's kind of weird. Well, he must have signed like an NDA or something.
Which are difficult to replicate in an actual physical...
Which, if that's the case, what's so crazy you'd have to sign an NDA that you couldn't speak about it?
Physical laboratory. And so this is just another way of learning about the world around us.
Because if the Air Force shuts it down, by prior agreement, they're required to remediate it, which means they have to go back and turn the land back into the way it was before they started. They'll have to bulldoze the whole site away.
Yeah, so that's HAARP, guys. So you'll know basically what, I'm sure they're going to bring it up here in this next video. There used to be so many good documentaries on Project Bluebeam, and I went through pages, and I couldn't find any of the old documentaries on it. They've just taken all of them away. So this one looked interesting. We're going to check it out because, like I said, there's always, for probably at least last 30 years, I've heard about them staging a fake alien attack or an event or something. And that's basically looks like what he's talking about here.
This one is still worth watching, but you probably didn't see the first episode because it was demonetized and buried, which is why I'm taking another shot, which leads me to the second thing.
Stefan said, if other nations also have HAARP, imagine the light shows they can orchestrate. Yeah, for real. Because I've heard they can, the images can be accompanied by like real sound too. They also have the ability to cause sound now. So they could literally, they can make it like there's basically a alien war going on above our heads. That would be so insane.
This is the YouTube.
And then if they were going to pull something like that off, that would make sense. They actually have man-made ships like that, because they would actually, if they were going to do something like that, they would probably make quite a few of those crash. So it looks super realistic. Like, oh, look, here's a spaceship right here. It crashed. So that would make sense if they have a bunch of them made like that. They'll be unmanned and just crash on purpose.
YouTube-friendly version of this episode. There are
then people, like a lot of people, especially non-Christians, would believe it if they showed them an actual spaceship that crashed on the ground. Yeah, they would definitely fall for that.
About 2 minutes missing, and those 2 minutes are available on the unredacted version that's on Patreon. and stop screaming. You're not missing anything. It's 2 minutes at the very end and has nothing to do with the story. It's really just me preaching, and the episode is probably better without it.
But if they want to support the channel, that would be okay.
Would you get out of here?
Maybe they could buy a Hecklefish mug or t-shirt.
That's enough.
Yeah, also, guys, I wanted to give full credit to this guy. His channel is the Y-Files. If you see this, I'm just fair right, buddy. I'm just watching it to get the information out there and a little bit of fair critique.
You are a terrible salesman.
I'm not trying.
I've got a few emails from YouTube from usually when I cover bigger channels. They didn't give me a strike, but it said my videos can't be seen outside the U.S. A couple of them.
To sell anything. I'm just
Something about the videos were being monetized or in the process of being monetized.
letting them know that there's another version, and if they want to check it out, they can, and why I'm covering this again. 4. Nobody does. The media reminds you of overpopulation, pollution, illness, and endless wars for resources. The world was fractured into different states with different cultures, religions, and leaders. It must have been awful. These stories made you glad your memories were erased. The event saved humanity. Cities are calm and efficient. No borders, no conflicts. One global society, provided for and secure. Everything just works. But sometimes a memory will flash through your mind. Riots, violence, destruction, tension, anxiety. You push it away. Why think about the past when life is so much better now? But some people can't let go. The event deniers. Bitter malcontents spreading disinformation that life was somehow better before. It's deplorable. Thankfully, these troublemakers who cling to the past disappear as soon as they're identified. Once all the event deniers are gone.
Yeah, I definitely got to make sure to pause a lot in this one on a bigger channel.
We could finally be rid of that conspiracy theory. Shadow governments, secret technology, UFOs and aliens. Everyone knows none of that is real. No sane person believes the event was anything but a gift. And it definitely wasn't some conspiracy called Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, human, there you are.
He had Pee Wee Herman on there.
I need your help. Something strange is happening.
Stranger than a talking goldfish?
No, you idiot. Will you listen? It started at breakfast this morning. I was browsing the web, having a bowl of
You can always tell a bigger channel, they got ads and all their stuff. Here comes an ad.
Mariner's Choice.
Whoa, you know that stuff is way overpriced, right?
Excuse me.
Delete Me removes your personal data like
Files for 20% off?
you got it. Serge Monast wasn't the type of guy you'd expect to become a global conspiracy icon. He was a journalist from Quebec, Canada. He focused mainly on political commentary.
Yeah, this was a good interview right here. I believe it was from like the 70s. This was a really good interview. If he doesn't show the whole interview, I'll see if I could bring it up. A lot of the stuff he says in there is literally happening or happened. It's crazy.
In the early 90s, he didn't like where society was headed. It was happening. He could feel it, but he couldn't identify it. So he did some digging, and his fears were justified. He discovered a secret cabal of powerful elites controlling the world from behind the scenes. He called them the Shadow Masters. But you can substitute shadow government, deep state, military intelligence complex.
Illuminati.
Right. Whatever you want to call them, Serge Monast was determined to expose them.
Yeah, they don't like that.
Don't get ahead of me.
Oh, no.
In 1994, he published a book about his investigation, Project Bluebeam, which outlines a detailed plan to create a
Yeah, that spiral that was on the front of that book, it's called the Norway Spiral. It happened in Sweden in 2009.
one-world government and a new
And like I said, that guy, that man Maitreya, and his team took credit saying it was him that did that.
world order. And the plan is about to go into motion. NASA and the United Nations will be front organizations. The UN will allow the elites to influence every country on Earth, and NASA will create the technology to turn influence into control. Manasse discovered that Project Bluebeam will create the biggest hoax ever conceived. Using advanced technology and psychological manipulation, this illusion will be so convincing that it becomes the new reality shared by everyone on Earth, a reality controlled by an elite few.
I don't know if I should say this. I've heard other conspiracies about the jab in 2020, that there was something in there that would basically have an effect on people when the Antichrist speaks, is all I'll say. But that's a rumor that's been going around for a while.
Project Bluebeam has 4 key goals to ensure everyone's primary allegiance is to the New World Order. First, destroy religion. Second, destroy national pride. Third, destroy the family. And fourth, destroy individual creative freedom.
Hello, this is already happening.
As soon as his book was released, he was followed, surveilled, his phones were tapped, he was harassed, and then there was a knock on the door.
Hitman?
Child Protective Services.
Oh,
They took his kids away.
what? Why?
Well, his children were homeschooled. The Canadian government didn't like this. They were taken from him and made wards of the state so they could receive a proper public.
Yeah, so that's how they tend to do things. There's usually an order to it. Usually they'll try to scare you first, and then if that doesn't work, jail, and then if jail doesn't work, then you probably guess the final outcome.
Public education.
Run by the government.
Yep. He never saw them again. A few months later, in December, another knock on the door.
Pizza?
Police.
Yeah.
He was arrested for spreading misinformation.
It's been a long time since Canadians had freedom of speech, huh?
Manasse was questioned by police for hours and then spent the night in jail. Then, the very next day, well, what usually happens to whistleblowers who expose secret government programs.
They write books and go on Joe Rogan.
No, I mean whistleblowers not for military intelligence.
Oh, this happens.
What was that? Did you sneeze?
No. Don't you see me slicing my fin across my throat?
No, it's not even moving.
Hang on. How about this?
Still nothing.
Crip. Yeah, I might have to ease up on the Botox.
Yeah, you're not full.
Yeah, it's usually how you can tell if someone's real or not when they're dealing with that type of information, especially online, is they end up like Bill Cooper and this guy in jail and in prison, and they don't get to keep just putting out video after video after video every day.
Fooling anybody.
It's for my migraines.
So what happens to whistleblowers?
They get dead.
Yes. The next day, Serge Manasse was found dead in his apartment. The official report said he died of a heart attack.
I was just about to say, probably a heart attack. It's always a heart attack.
He's only 51 years old. His latest physical showed him in perfect health. 2 other journalists looking into Project Bluebeam also had sudden heart attacks, though they had no history of heart problems. So we know the goals of Project Bluebeam: one world government, one world religion, one national identity, and the erosion
Wow, so 3 different journalists had heart attacks that were working on Bluebeam stories. That's crazy.
of the family in favor of the state. Those
I mean, it could be coincidence. People have heart attacks every day, but yeah, who knows?
are big goals. Big goals require bold moves. The Shadow Masters know this. And it all
Yeah.
starts with an earthquake.
Stefan said whistleblowers can have cars have notoriously bad brakes. Yeah, or like that one guy. Oh man, that was sad. What happened to that guy? What was his name? It was a few years ago. He was trying to expose like Tom Hanks and all the stuff going on in Hollywood that now they're getting busted for. It was Isaac Cappy. Yeah, he allegedly jumped off a freeway bridge in Arizona. But yeah, That was a crazy situation. His last video was insane. You could tell there was someone there. He looked so scared and so nervous. But yeah, they ended up finding him on the freeway.
Find the lowest priced health plans at healthforcalifornia.com. Get a quote.
But yeah, he seemed like a good dude. Props to him for that. It seemed like he knew his life was in jeopardy exposing what he was exposing. And he had been in a lot of top Hollywood movies too. He was an actor. His name was Isaac Cappy.
The elites behind Project Bluebeam know that implementing a one-world government requires everyone to share a single set of values. That makes the population much easier to control. Project Bluebeam achieves its goal in 4 steps. Step 1, create a single religion where everyone worships the same God, the God they create. Serge Monast called this the New Age religion.
We must remember that the New Age.
Yeah, and if you type in Project Bluebeam and go to the Wikipedia, it has like all these steps too. It has like the full conspiracy, like what the theory is on it.
Religion is the very foundation
I was going to show it, but it's pretty long, and it would have taken me a long time to read it all.
for the New World Government, without which the dictatorship is completely impossible. That is why the Bluebeam Project is so important to them, but has been so well hidden until now.
How do you destroy all religions? Well, find new archaeological artifacts that discredit them. Produce hard physical evidence as proof that their doctrine is wrong. It wouldn't be the first.
Yeah, see, this was what I was saying a few minutes ago. If HAARP could really cause like earthquakes and stuff, they could make earthquakes in a specific place and be like, oh, look, there was a spaceship or whatever buried here that all the religions can't be right. This thing's probably been here for millions of years.
First time that religion was impacted by a new discovery. The Dead Sea Scrolls. For hundreds of years, the Bible was thought to be complete. Then in 1947, a shepherd finds some clay jars in a cave, and suddenly there are new religious texts like the Book of Jubilees, the Wisdom of Solomon, and the Book of Tobit.
Yeah, and the Book of Enoch.
Right.
The Book of Enoch, link below. It's got giants, it's got angels, it's got the Great Flood. Is
it me, or does that fish kind of sound like that fat kid Cartman on South Park?
It's even got Anunnaki.
This discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls didn't fundamentally change religion, but it did cause scholars to ask, what else are we missing? Imagine an earthquake in the Middle East, which reveals hard evidence that Jesus never existed. Chaos. Or an earthquake that reveals technology buried for 2 million years that proves human DNA was engineered by aliens or another advanced race.
Yeah, Anunnaki.
That would completely undermine not just the story of creation, but also debunk evolution. Project Bluebeam will fabricate any evidence necessary to discredit every religion on the planet, and they'll hide that evidence in an earthquake. If the right artifact were discovered, it would cause chaos within every faith. But what about people who don't belong to a religion or don't believe in God? Project Bluebeam addresses this in step 2, the step where we get a new God. Project Bluebeam's step 2. Monast calls it the big
or the Antichrist.
Space show in the sky, but it's so much more. He discovered that NASA and a few intelligence agencies developed the technology to project 3D holographic images into the sky. I say into because the system uses a combination of satellites and ground-based systems to manipulate the ionosphere.
Okay, so he was saying, I think he just said NASA has the ability to do it.
He discovered that NASA and a few intelligence agencies developed the technology to project 3D holographic images into the sky. I say into because the system uses a combination of satellites and ground-based systems to manipulate the ionosphere. You don't need a screen. Images can be projected onto the particles in the atmosphere.
Well, yeah, it's plasma.
The projections will appear so lifelike that people will believe they are witnessing a miracle. The dominant god of each region will appear in the sky. Imagine looking up and seeing Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, all speaking to their followers in their own language. Their God will tell them their beliefs are all wrong, then will slowly morph into a new God. This is the first appearance of the new Messiah, God of the New World Order.
The projections of Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, and Krishna will merge into one, and explanations of mystery.
Yeah, all the esoteric people and the occult, they call this the day of declaration.
And revelations will be disclosed. This one God will, in fact, be the Antichrist, who will explain that the various scriptures have been misunderstood and misinterpreted, and that the religions of old are responsible for turning brother against brother and nation against nation. Therefore, old religions must be abolished to make way for the new age, new world religion, representing the one God Antichrist they see before them.
Debunking old religions will be enough to convert some people to this new one. Giant deities appearing and then converging into one Antichrist will convert a lot more. But these technologies won't work on everybody. Non-religious people will be terrified for sure, but they won't suddenly believe in a God based on a hologram, no matter how real it looks. The Shadow Masters know that. The Shadow Masters know that to create a one-world government and single religion, they need 100% of the population to believe. But you can't force a religious belief on somebody. They need to make the decision themselves, or at least be convinced they made it. The elites know this. That brings us to step 3. If you're not convinced by what you see, they'll use technology to broadcast the message directly into your brain. You may not realize it, but this technology is being used on you right now.
Probably, what's he gonna say? Probably 5G, I would imagine.
Want to start a podcast, but not sure how? Riverside has got you covered. First, go to...
When the new God appears in step 2, you'll hear him speaking whether you believe in him or not. And you won't be able to escape his voice.
Yeah, and I saw on that show I was telling you about, the Sean Ryan show. I saw he worked for, I don't really want to say the companies or the 3 letters. You guys can figure out the letters, but he basically confirmed all this stuff he was saying right here. He says that they definitely have weapon technology where they can basically beam voices into people's heads and make them think they're going crazy. He said there's way crazier stuff than that they have. But he said it was all based around frequencies. Different frequencies could have different effects on people. Could make them angry, could make them like sad, depressed. It's all about frequencies.
Voice because you're not hearing it through your ears. His voice is coming from your mind. The third step of Project Bluebeam is mind control. They'll use electromagnetic waves to interfere with brain function. They can shape perceptions.
That's what I was talking about a few minutes ago about the jab. Is people said that there was something in there that they'd be able to control people basically, and they'd be able to make them take the mark of the beast. Was what the theory was.
To create emotions and influence beliefs.
The third step in the Bluebeam project uses electronically augmented two-way communication.
Which I don't think so. I don't know. I really think that was all a test run for the mark of the beast to see how people were going to react to it and how receptive people were. That's personally what I feel it was, a big test.
Where ELF, VLF, and LF waves will reach each person from within his or her own mind, convincing each of them that their own God is speaking to them from the very depths of their own soul. Such rays from satellites are fed from the memories of computers that have stored massive data about every human on Earth and their languages. The rays will then interlace with their natural thinking to form what we call diffuse artificial thought. That kind of technology goes into the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s research where the human brain has been compared to a computer. Information is fed in, processed, integrated, and then a response is formulated and acted upon.
We know for a fact that the U.S. military...
It says, have you ever wondered how every eye shall see God on his second coming? Yeah, I have. I don't know. That's crazy. That's what a sight that's going to be. That's going to be insane. I don't know. I tend to think it's going to happen just like the Bible says. I think I personally think I think the firmament, I think the firmament's just like some type of dome or something. I think that'll open, and I think we'll see him riding his horse down here with all the angels behind him. Wow, that's going to be a crazy sight to see. Wow. But yeah, I wonder about stuff like that for sure.
Military and intelligence have experimented with mind control. We know they used sound waves in the Vietnam War.
Well, yeah, and also Project MK Ultra, which has been 100% proven and declassified. So, yeah, there's definitely some truth to that with MK Ultra.
To make the enemy anxious without knowing why. The CIA used these and all kinds of other methods to scramble people's brains and program them to be sleeper agents.
Link down in the breadbasket, Chief.
Yeah, also called Manchurian Candidate.
Government uses EM waves for all kinds of dark purposes. They've patented a device that can trigger emotions in a target from a half-mile away. But what's really scary about the patent is that it claims it can piggyback its signal onto any frequency. That would mean we can never escape it. Everything that uses electricity has an electromagnetic.
Yeah, and I saw a video where a guy went and actually looked up and showed the patents. The patents are really, yeah, those are real patents. So this part of it isn't just some theory. They've actually patented stuff like that could be used as weaponry and to put thoughts in people's heads. I want to say on that Sean Ryan show, they said there was some, basically like a new type of harp they built in Antarctica that's supposedly like 10 times better. And he was saying that they have all kinds of capabilities with that.
Field. Think you're safe living off the grid? Nope. Radio signals can bounce off the ionosphere and reach anywhere in the world. The fourth and final stage of Project Bluebeam is the most sinister. Serge Manasse predicts a universal supernatural manifestation with electronic means. In other words, an alien invasion. The elites will promise to unite and defend the world against our common enemy. But to do that, they'll need emergency power. But it's only temporary, so we won't resist authority. We'll beg for it.
Yeah, with probably along with that would come martial law, and people wouldn't be as panicked seeing like all the big walls up where you can't even move out of your neighborhood, move around your neighborhood. People would probably be less panicked and more accepting, not knowing what it really is.
One is to make mankind believe that an alien invasion is about to occur at every major city on Earth in order to provoke each major nation to use its nuclear weapons in order to strike back. The United Nations Court will require that all nations which launch nuclear weapons disarm when the invasion is shown to be false. And how will the United Nations know that the invasion was false? They will have staged it, of course.
Subsequently, I found out that up at kind of Bunkport, there were all...
Yeah, this guy right here, Stephen Greer, this guy is wicked. First time I saw him on YouTube, he was out in the desert with a group of people, and they were doing some type of ritual to contact an alien, to make an alien appear. Obviously, they didn't show the alien appearing. They just showed what they were doing beforehand. So, yeah, this guy he's into some stuff for sure. He's got a top level clearance for all the UFO stuff. I've seen him on quite a bunch of stuff.
These UFOs zipping around when Bush was up there out on a cigarette boat. And they didn't realize they were ours. So now we're getting into false flag 101.
A false flag attack. They'll use holographic projections as well as real man-made craft designed to look and move like UFOs. And here's the twist. The groundwork for this deception is being laid right now. All my life, UFOs and aliens were a fringe topic. When Serge Manasse made his predictions, they were a fringe topic. Yet somehow he predicted that high-profile people from the military would come forward with claims of alien encounters, UFO crashes, and hidden government projects. He warned that whistleblowers aren't telling the truth, they're spreading disinformation.
Yeah, I didn't trust any of these guys. That first guy they showed him. This guy's, I've seen him for a long time too. He was ex-military. Then he worked for some of those weapon companies I mentioned earlier. So I didn't trust any of these guys here.
Information. They're slowly bringing the subject of UFOs out of the fringe and into the mainstream.
That there is an overarching agenda that was hashed between 53 and 56 to create the specter of a threat from
So basically 3 to 6 years after Roswell.
outer space that does not exist.
And he said the best way to cause all...
There's William Cooper, who I was talking about earlier. They say he was murdered too.
people of the world to come together in
He was really one of the first people that came out and started talking about all this stuff, and not even just aliens, just all the occult stuff, all the Illuminati, all that kind of stuff. He was one of the first ones that really started talking about that. And then, like I said, he died of a heart attack too. So, but all of his family and close friends swear he was murdered.
one world government and end war forever would be if we were attacked by some other species from some other planet. And boy, that just clicked with me, and I knew that
He was talking about the Ronald Reagan speech to the United Nations in the 80s.
that this is just another scam. This is the age of deception. There's no doubt about it.
Age of deception, 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 age of
June 28, 2001, Bill Cooper said the U.S. would stage a false flag attack on a major city and blame Osama bin Laden, a name unknown to most Americans. So that was basically like 3 months before 9/11 happened. Yeah, also, this guy here, I'm circling my mouse, the OBL guy was he was actually trained by some of our agencies, basically under the name Tim Osman. You could look that up. He was here in America for a while being trained.
deception, age of 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 deception.
The military.
Stephen said, I believe technology exists on Earth to make UFOs do those crazy maneuvers eyewitnesses reported. Yeah, I believe that for sure. They would definitely have to be unmanned because no human could withstand the G-forces in that for sure. There's no way a human could withstand those types of speeds and quick cuts, and it would have to be an unmanned vehicle. But they definitely probably could do it for sure. Like I said, I heard a whistleblower say he knows for a fact that those two companies make UFOs, basically.
Military releases videos of UFOs.
And then they said Hitler was making one during World War II. So it goes back quite a ways.
Congress holds hearings. And the news reports all this with.
But they said that's really another reason why America went and grabbed all the Nazi scientists, because they were working on basically a bell-shaped saucer type thing. But they said it was only because they needed them to stop Hitler from getting the nuclear bomb and then us getting it first. But I'm sure that probably could have something to do with it.
With a straight face. This is all very new. By spreading the idea of non-human biologics with advanced technology, the elites behind Project Bluebeam are creating a narrative that will feel completely logical once the attack happens. Manass's theory goes on. The invasion will begin with staged UFO sightings over major cities, causing mass panic. Governments around the world will issue warnings of an impending global catastrophe. They'll ask permission for something unthinkable and will say yes. Nuclear weapons will be deployed in a desperate battle for survival against alien forces. Can you imagine what it would be like if the skies were full of UFOs, fighter jets, and nuclear explosions? I mean, really think about it. That would be so terrifying that people would gladly give up freedom in exchange for survival. So the nations of the world will unite into a central one-world government. It's the only way to protect humanity from further alien incursions. The false flag invasion will unite humanity. But more than that, it will change our entire worldview. It will redefine what we believe is possible. Now we'll believe anything. The final step of Project Bluebeam seeks to turn that belief into a tool of absolute control.
Listen, you want to skip this ad. I would too. But what if I told you there's a skip ads for everybody? It's called Pi, and if that sounds familiar.
Once the threat is over and the population is calm, using a combination of holographic technology and radio waves, everybody's brains will be wiped. We'll have no memory of what came before this event. This will be done by building upon CIA brainwashing techniques developed and perfected during MKUltra. Then with every mind on Earth a clean slate, the New World Order can begin. Families will be dissolved because you don't know who your family is. You only know the information being transmitted to you by Project Bluebeam. So you go along willingly and peacefully. The Shadow Masters will have boots on the ground ready to go. Men, women, and children around the world will be lined up and inventoried. You might not remember who you are, but they will. They'll know where you live, what you did for a living, who your family is, and most of all, they will know what you own. Cars, homes, money.
Yeah, it could make sense why they say no one's able to buy or sell.
Every asset you have will be accounted for. Your assets will be seized because you don't know what your assets were. And you'll be assigned housing and a job because you don't remember where you lived or what you did. But you won't work for money. You don't need money. Everything you need is provided for you. You feel like this is how life should be. Any other way of life sounds primitive and chaotic. All the wealth in the world belongs to a very select few people. They retain their memories and they live in luxury.
Yeah, Stephen said it sounds a little bit like the Hunger Games. Yeah, for real.
And they know that as long as they keep the population fed, meaning fed food and fed propaganda, people will comply. And anyone who doesn't, they quickly disappear. All homes and businesses will have cameras and microphones. It's illegal to tamper with these. Finding dissenters is easy. You just watch, wait, and act. Within 2 generations, the New World Order will seem perfectly natural. Dissenting wouldn't even make sense.
What's kind of crazy, I don't know if you guys have seen what's going on with China with their social credit score. Yeah, it's pretty scary there. Yeah, they basically control their citizens, and if they do anything wrong, they get a lesser credit score. And it's crazy. Like it's like they're not even alive when they're at the lowest credit scores. They can't do anything. They can't leave out their own neighborhoods. It's so crazy. It's basically it's total control. That's exactly what it is.
By then, children aren't born to parents. Everyone is sterilized at birth. The Shadow Masters keep tight.
But always when I see that, I think maybe they're using China as basically like the testing grounds. Because they always got to start and test somewhere. So I could see that easily spreading that social score stuff that's in China to all the other countries.
Control on population growth. Children are created by DNA genetically optimized for desirable qualities like submissiveness, agreeability, and lack of curiosity. They are incubated, educated, and assigned a role in society. When they're no longer useful, they're euthanized. This will seem humane. Letting someone live for years sick and old will seem cruel, and that's the cycle. The architects of the New World Order have finally achieved the utopia they've always wanted. Now, Serge Manasse has attracted plenty of critics and skeptics. Some people call him a kook. Other people call him a prophet. Unfortunately, we won't know who's right until it's too late. Project Bluebeam claims NASA and the UN plan to fake an alien invasion using mind control and holograms to create a new god, then scare people into accepting a one-world government. Great story. But is it true? Well, I can't debunk a secret government program because it's secret, but we can break down Project Bluebeam to see if it's even possible. Step 1 is earthquakes. Do we have the technology to create them on demand? We do. We do this all the time by fracking for oil. The number of earthquakes of a 3.0 magnitude or higher in Oklahoma went from an average of 2 per year in the 2000s to over 800 in 2015, induced by fracking. So the technology is here. The problem is it can't be done in secret. You need huge crews of people and loud, heavy machinery. They couldn't hide it. Step 2, global holograms of gods and UFOs.
Yeah, I don't agree that it couldn't be done in secret. I don't agree with that at all. They can do all kinds of stuff in secret.
This tech doesn't exist. Nothing even close to it does.
Yeah, but the military is always 20 years ahead.
Maybe, but it would use so much power, you'd have to dedicate the entire energy industry to it. All oil, gas, coal, and nuclear energy has to go into this one single project. Word would get out. Step 3, mind control, using electromagnetic waves. This tech exists, but it's not really mind control. It can affect moods, cause anxiety, make people sick, even kill them. But you can't implant messages or create sleeper agents.
Yeah, the CIA's still working on it, though.
Well, if they are, they'd be breaking the law.
Oh, my mistake, of course. The CIA would never break the law.
Faking an alien invasion, even without holographic technology, could be done. All you need is a story and a compliant media to push it.
UFO sightings are a national security threat.
The things that they came up against were potentially so advanced that they posed an existential threat to the United States.
Well, we already have that.
We do, and that's too bad. The Founding Fathers gave the press special protections to watch politicians. Instead, the press gives special protections to the politicians so they can watch us. That's dangerous because the United States has a dark history of false flag operations. Remember Operation Gladio?
Link right down in your honeypot.
The CIA and Mafia teamed up and armed Italian terrorists to kill civilians and blame the communists. Or Operation Northwoods in 1962. The Defense Department planned to attack Americans and blame Cuban terrorists. Then they'd invade Cuba. And thank goodness JFK said no. He stopped trusting the military intelligence state after the Bay of Pigs.
Hey, and how'd that work out for him?
Not well. JFK didn't want war, so he was replaced by a president who did, Lyndon Johnson, who presided over the Gulf of Tonkin incident, a false flag operation where the U.S. Navy claimed it was under attack by North Vietnam. Now, this is still controversial to say, but I don't care. It's the truth. The U.S. government lied to drag us into the senseless Vietnam War.
What I want is somebody that can lay up some plans to trap these guys and whoop hell up.
Yeah, not the first time that happened either.
Kill some of them. That's what I want to do. I'll try and bring something back. We'll meet that objective.
One telegram, which we later found from Commander Herrick of the Maddox, had been made available to the committee at that time. I'm quite sure they would have had long hearings, gone into it thoroughly, and if they'd been able to discover the facts as they actually were, I don't believe it passed the resolution because it was based upon absolutely false, erroneous information.
1,000 Americans dead, 300,000 wounded. For what? To enrich weapons manufacturers and chemical companies? Really? But that's the theme of this episode. To achieve their goals, whatever they are, the power structure has to deceive us. Okay, back to the UFOs, the whistleblowers.
Stephen said an alien invasion became a threat only once Russia were subdued. Yeah.
I don't trust them. Everything they say is approved by the Pentagon. That doesn't mean what they say is true. It means the Pentagon wanted them to say it. That's a great opportunity for deception. David Grush heard from a guy who knew a guy who worked with another guy who said he saw UFO wreckage. What?
Dave then went to the Defence Office of Pre-Publication Security Review, the DOPSA office inside the Pentagon, and he asked for permission to talk about what he knows, or what he says he knows. And they've given him permission to talk about crash retrievals.
Did we learn anything from any of that? Luis Elizondo was in charge of ATIP, but the Pentagon said he wasn't. Then he said they're smearing him. Then they said, well, he worked as a contractor, but not ATIP, and on and on and on. Which side is telling the truth? We don't know, but one side is using deception. Elizondo said he resigned because he was frustrated with the government's lack of transparency about UFOs. Great. That's what we need, that kind of bravery. Okay, tell us what's going on. What'd you see? What do we have? Well, he said, well, I have to be careful about what I say.
So they made it very clear to me that I have to be very careful not to talk about something that I'm not allowed to talk about.
Oh, but there are more details in my book.
Whatever's in there is cleared.
Oh, look, I want to believe these guys. But as they say, I've been hurt before. Air Force intelligence, where both men.
Stephen said the U.S. started the war in Angola and then asked South Africa to take over, whilst at the same time whacking us with sanctions. Angola have heaps of oil. Oh, wow. I know if they had oil like that. But yeah, same with Iraq and all those other places. Oil.
And spent many years, specializes in deception.
We started slowly convincing him, or not really convincing him, but just giving him the idea that this might be just UFOs, extraterrestrials. And he ran with that.
I have to be careful. Is it possible? And I'll be very careful what I say.
Hey, I just tapped into a secret laser on Kirtland Air Force Base. Obviously, we can't have that happen. So all I had to do was say, well, you know what, Paul? Maybe what you did see was UFOs.
There's a place near Culpeper, Virginia called The Farm, and people go there to be trained, to be professional disinformation, basically how to lie well.
There's techniques that we use, that we're trained to use in gaining that person's confidence. And I use those techniques against Bill Miller and agreeing to say things that we wanted said regarding the UFO community or within the UFO community.
When you see people on CNN or CBS 60 Minutes, the folks that they will allow to talk about it are people that have been cherry-picked by this cabal, this secret government group, to say what they're told to say. It's scripted.
I want to be careful that I don't, because again, I haven't had what I have approval to talk about. I gotta be careful. I don't want to. Yeah, and again, I got to be careful because some of that stuff I haven't been cleared to talk about.
Do you have any examples of this?
Yeah, right here is the show I was talking about, the Sean Ryan show. He always has whistleblowers on there.
Yes, of course. Nick Pope, Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, all those guys.
Okay. Again, I got to be careful exactly what I say, but
they have been, I know for a fact, been told what to say.
I'm still advising the U.S. government on this.
You still consult with the government. You still have a security clearance. So,
and I'm trying to carefully message this. And on occasion, I still will consult for the U.S. government, for the U.S. government, for the U.S. government, for the U.S. government.
So let's assume Elizondo is telling the truth. He said UFOs are a real threat to our national security. That's a serious statement to make if it's not true. But remember, Serge Manasse said that's all part of the plan, to convince us through deception that UFOs are a threat. So is Project Bluebeam happening? Well, Serge Manasse's story is complicated. The government did harass him, arrest him for misinformation, and he died the next day. It sounds like a conspiracy. But he loved Star Trek, and he called Project Bluebeam Star Trek technology. And Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, released the plot of an unreleased movie called The God Thing. It was eventually used for a Next Generation episode called Devil's Due. An alien uses technology to pose as a god and enslave a planet. She even uses mind control and holograms.
Oh, no. When did this guy release his book?
About 18 months after that episode aired.
Oh.
Right. Project Bluebeam sounds like science fiction because it probably was. But that doesn't mean there's nothing to the story. The world the elites want to create is exactly how Project Bluebeam describes. And it's already happening. They're already merging economies, cultures, and governments. That's globalism. The Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, WEF, Davos. These are globalists, and they're not looking out for us.
Illuminati Volume 1 link down in the click hole.
Globalism, if done right, could help poor countries benefit from wealthier ones. There could be better cooperation, easier trade, cultural exchange, fewer wars. Sounds good. But their vision is more like Serge Manas's prediction. Centrally planned government, a single currency, controlled wages and prices.
Yeah, that sounds like everything my guest, Gary from Search for Signs, said Maitreya was coming to do. Sounds exactly like what everything he said.
Assigned jobs, no private property, and depopulation. They downplay their more extreme plans. Deception. And the rules they want to impose on us to implement their vision, well, those rules don't apply to them. They want us to drive electric cars and take public transportation. They fly on private jets and are driven around by a fleet of Range Rovers. They want to install devices in our homes to limit the energy we use for heating and cooling, but keep their 5 houses at perfect temperature year-round. They want us to eat a plant-based diet.
And bugs!
And bugs, they really do.
How can we grow nutritious and sustainable food that supports healthy and productive lives with far fewer resources available? Insects are among the most abundant and nutritious animals on the planet.
But when these people get together, they go through a lot of steak and lobster. Greenpeace says that Davos is a distasteful masterclass in hypocrisy. And people often call out this hypocrisy. But here's what everyone misses. They don't see themselves as hypocrites. They need more resources because they're more important than us. They can't spend all day at an airport waiting in security lines and dragging bags and dealing with flight delays. They're so busy saving the world, they have to be exempt from the rules. And most of these elites aren't evil people.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure about that.
Really, most are not. They want a cleaner, safer, and better world for everyone. They want to feed starving children. They want older people to live in dignity. They don't want...
The elites wanted to feed starving people. They'd feed starving people. They say Queen Elizabeth, when she died, before she died, she could have solved world hunger on her own. She has so much money. They don't want to feed people.
Want anyone to live in poverty. Noble goals. Their solution? A rental-based economy for housing, food, and everything.
You'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
Right. Ida Auken said at the World Economic Forum in 2016, the state would own all resources, and we just subscribe to them. Sharing and limiting access to resources would cut waste and pollution.
You want the function, you want the service, right? Why do you want to own a cell phone if you can just lease it? And if you lease, why shouldn't you lease your refrigerator or your washing machine or your dishwasher, or why do you want to own it?
And you don't want to own a home.
Secure a mortgage, buy a ton of furniture, and spend long hours on upkeep and renovation once in a while. Why make all these commitments? Life is full of surprises.
Renting gives you more freedom and less responsibility.
Yeah, guys, we'll take care of all you guys. You just got to put this microchip in your hand, guys.
And if the state controls resources, they'd be shared more fairly. They would limit access for some people in order to give access to others.
From each according...
Nothing in this world is free, guys. So when they start telling us they're going to take care of us and we don't have to work and none of that, yeah.
To his ability, to each according to his need.
There's going to be a price for that, guys. I can guarantee it.
Eats.
Exactly. Karl Marx said that. That resource rental economy idea is just another flavor of communism. But they present it as this grand plan that would make everyone's lives better. Their presentation is deception. We know what would happen. We'd have to contribute our private property, but the elites wouldn't. They're too important. They're doing this for the greater good. That's not evil. That's just arrogance. Project Bluebeam is a warning. Don't be deceived into accepting globalism. The WEF has backed away from the own nothing and be happy idea, but only after they were...
Yeah, that's the other thing, too, is All right, Stefan. Yeah, I'm not gonna be on too much longer. There's like 8 minutes left in this video. But I was saying I've seen Trump running around with a bunch of globalists lately.
Called out on it. They liked it before. That's deception. To accept their vision for a new world, existing institutions like religion, family, and patriotism need to be completely dismantled. Most of us don't want this. So the message has to be delivered as a subtle deception. Like maybe you can slip it into pop culture. When ideologues claim their system was before and it was demonetized.
Yeah, just something to think about, guys. Pretty interesting little topic with all the drones and stuff going on lately. But I'm gonna go ahead and call it here. It's been an hour and 15. I try to keep my lives around an hour, hour and 20, hour and 30. That way they're not as hard to watch. So, all right, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. God bless.